Welcome, dear students, to the massive open online course on Political Economy 1. In today's module, we are going to discuss women's empowerment and the role of the self-help groups. The objectives of this module are as follows. We would dig deep into the concept of empowerment. We will try to understand the ways to empower women. We would also like to understand what exactly the self-help groups or the SHGs mean. And in this context, we would try to explain the evolution of the self-help groups. We would also like to understand how the self-help groups can act as a tool for empowering women. And finally, we would like to underline the basic principles of the functioning of the self-help groups. I start my discussion today with a famous quotation of Mahatma Gandhi in Young India in the year 1930. Mahatma Gandhi says, "Millions of women in our hamlets know what unemployment means. Give them access to economic activities and they will have access to power and self-confidence to which they hitherto have been strangers. Only giving employment can act as a tool to empower women. They will understand their true worth." He further states in another place that the position of women in the society is an index of its civilization. Train a man and you train an individual. Train a woman and you build a nation. This was the amount of confidence that Gandhiji had on women. Nearly a century has passed, and despite the multidimensional growth that India has achieved since, Gandhiji's concerns remain relevant even today. Although women constitute almost half of India's population, they are largely excluded from participating in economic activities and decision making, as well as access to resources of health, nutrition, education, etc. This exclusion and discrimination is reflected in low labor force participation rates, with India recording only a meager 22.3% of female labor force participation in 2021 in comparison with around 30.3% in 1990. So we can say that from 1990 to 2021, the labor force participation rate of women in India has fallen by a good deal 8 percentage points. And this speaks a volume about the lowering of empowerment that women in the Indian economy has. The empowerment and autonomy of women and the improvement of their political, social, economic, and health status is a highly important end in itself. It is essential for the establishment of sustainable development of an economy. The full participation and partnership of both women and men is required in any sort of productive and reproductive life, including shared responsibilities for the care and the nurturing of children and also of the maintenance of the household. In all parts of the world, women are facing threats to their lives, health, and well-being as a result of being overburdened with work and of the lack of any sort of power and influence. In most regions of the world, women receive less formal education than men, and at the same time, women's own knowledge, abilities, and coping mechanisms often go unrecognized in most of the economies of the world. The power relations that hinder or impede the attainment of women's health and fulfilling lives operate at many levels in the society, from the most personal to the most highly public view. Achieving change in this respect requires policy and program actions that will improve women's access to secure livelihood and economic resources, alleviate their extreme responsibilities with regard to household work, remove any sort of legal impediments to their participation in public life, and raise social awareness through various types of effective programs of education and mass communication. In addition, improving the status of women also enhances their decision-making capacities in all spheres of life, especially in the success of various types of population programs in various less developed countries, where given autonomy of women and their decision in making decisions in all types of areas relating to reproduction, the population programs can also achieve their benefits. Experience shows that population and development programs are the most effective when steps have simultaneously been taken to improve the status of women. Coming to the definition of empowerment, empowerment is the process of increasing the assets and the capabilities of individuals or groups so that they can make purposive choices, and also they should have the ability to transform these choices into their desired actions and outcomes. We should keep in mind that empowered people have the freedom to choose and also the freedom to act. This in turn enables them to better influence the course of their lives and the decisions which affect them. Empowerment can be viewed as a means of creating a social environment in which one can take decisions and make choice either individually or collectively for social transformation. It strengthens the innate ability by way of acquiring knowledge, power, and experience. We all know that women differ from men in the context of their social position. These differences consist of asymmetric, unequal power relations between the genders. So, women's empowerment can be referred to as a process of increasing women's access to control over the strategic life choices that basically affects them, and also so that they can have an access to the opportunities that can allow them to fully realize their capacities. So it's a question basically of giving women the access as also opportunities and also freedom to make choices and take whatever action that they desire, so that at the end of the day we find women can achieve whatever goals they desire. So in other words, we can say that women's empowerment is an economic, political, and socio-cultural process. And this challenges the system of sexual stratification, the gender-wise stratification that has resulted in women's subordination and marginalization in order to improve the quality of life of women. Now, when we talk of empowerment in these words, we need to understand that what are basically the key elements of empowerment. As I have already said, access is a very, very important word here. And information is another, and when these two coincide as access to information, it becomes a very important element of empowerment. Informed citizens, we know, are better equipped to take advantages of whatever opportunities that they face in front of them. They can access services. They have the full information about their rights and they can exercise them. They can negotiate effectively and hold state and non-state actors accountable whenever they are in any sort of crisis. Secondly, inclusion and participation. So inclusion of poor people and other traditionally excluded groups in priority setting and decision making is critical to ensure that limited public resources build on local knowledge and priorities and to build any sort of commitment to change. And above all these things comes the concept of accountability, because it refers to the ability to call the public officials, private employers or service providers to account, requiring that they are answerable for all the policies, actions, and whatever usage of the funds that take place. Another very important element of empowerment is the local organizational capacity. So the ability of the people to work together, organize themselves, mobilize resources to solve problems of common interest. So often outside the reach of formal systems, poor people generally turn to each other for support and strength to solve their everyday problems. Here, even though my topic is, the topic of my discussion is concerning women's empowerment, but empowerment as a term in itself can mean not only to empower women, but empower all those who lacks power. It is the poor people in our society who lacks power. And these poor people, they also need to be empowered. And if that poor people happen to be a woman, then that woman is doubly marginalized. So this is a type of marginalization that women face in the society. We next come to terms as to how can we go about to empower women. One factor that greatly limits women's empowerment is poverty. In general, the poorer a person is, the less access they will have to jobs and political participation, resources, and many other things. Around the world, poverty disproportionately affects young women and girls. Helping women and girls move out of poverty will be an incredible and effective way to empower them. In addition, we have seen that in many low-income countries, discriminatory laws and intertwined social practices can limit a woman's rights. She may not be able to own property, open a bank account, receive education, start a business, and many more. Anything that forces society to re-examine these laws and norms can also lead to empowerment of women. Next, a very, very important way to empower women is empowering them through financial inclusion. Worldwide, women constitute the majority of the 1.7 million unbanked people in the world. Despite having multiple roles in society, women as consumers, women as employees, women as business owners, mothers, caretakers, there is great income inequality between men and women. A woman's chance of receiving credit are lower in our society than that for men. Yet, in an increasing number of families, the woman provides much or all of the family's income. Therefore, one way to empower women is to increase their access to essential financial services. Next is we talk about empowering women through access to life-enhancing goods. Now, if we try to increase the access of life-changing goods to women, we can empower them. Many people who live in poverty, they lack the access to basic services that we sometimes take for granted in our lives. These products and services include access to reliable electricity, quality education, accessible healthcare facilities, and much more. Lack of access to such basic care or basic services often goes hand in hand together with the concept of financial exclusion. Without a savings account or without the ability to receive a loan, many cannot afford the upfront costs of energy, school fees, tuition fees, medical bills, etc. Next, we deal about the importance of women empowerment. Why are we so much in support of this. Now, this happens to be, since if I talk in the context of the Indian economy, it is an economy which is an emerging market developing economy, and we still have a long way to go in alleviation of poverty in our country. Now, the importance of women empowerment in this mission to alleviate poverty is very, very important. We understand that when women have access to financial services and the life-changing goods that I've been talking about, the benefits not only flow to women who receive them, but also to their families and to the communities in which they belong. So when women are empowered to fully participate in society, when they're empowered to work, to create their own businesses, through their access to finance and credit, education and jobs, obviously, the quality of life of the overall family improves. So it has been proven time and again that increasing the incomes of poor mothers result in an almost immediate improvement in their children's diet. It leads to an increased likelihood that the mothers can send their children to school. And when a child is educated, that child itself will have opportunities to live outside poverty. So, in the context of increased importance being given to innovation, technology, self-sustenance, especially in this post-COVID era, the economically weaker sections have all faced an acute loss of jobs and income. So even though women, they have the potential to contribute to household finances, they often do not have the agency to participate in decisions related to avenues of income generation. Thus, we find that in such situation, many a times, the whole family have been pushed to the brink of poverty. So in a country like ours, that is at the cusp of a rapid transformation in terms of evolving employment opportunities, urbanization, innovation, female participation in the economy remains crucial to where India stands globally. And when I'm saying this, that it remains crucial, we have witnessed around 8% drop in points in the form of a lowering of female participation rate in India. So it's really a problem that needs to be looked into. Even though working women constitute approximately 432 million population, about 343 million of them are not in paid formal job roles or work. That means most of the women are either employed in the informal sector and also employed in very, very low paid jobs. An estimated 324 million of them are not in the labor force, and another 19 million are a part of the labor force, but sadly they are not employed. Hence, the nature of employment among women is either not accounted for in the formal economy, or women end up not having access to formal jobs due to the existing socio-cultural complexities that we have in our economy. So as a society, as an Indian society which is deep-rooted in patriarchy, even if women want to attain employment, the dominant tradition of female domestic responsibility, coupled with the social stigma, limits their economic advances and access to opportunities in comparison with their male equivalents. So they need to take care of the children, the elderly in the household, which we sometimes term it as unpaid care employment. So to overcome this social stigma around employment and also to give women the agency to break out the shackles of subordination, entrepreneurship is an innovative and simple tool. So we in India, to boost the participation of women in the entrepreneurship ecosystem, the Indian government have introduced a plethora of schemes such as the Mudra Yojana, the Udyogini scheme, the Annapurna scheme, and also the Stand Up India scheme. However, despite efforts to create a better environment for women entrepreneurs in India, the arranging of finances remains the biggest challenge. While families may have expandable income, its dominant member often refrain from contributing to help a woman achieve her dream of financial independence. We rarely find any such dominant male member of the family coming forward, and even if they do so, we find it mostly in our fictions and in our movies. Moreover, even if women manage to apply for loans, the collateral which they are going to offer, such as property, that is often held in the name of the male member of the family, which also act as a deterrent for them to start an enterprise, because they are not going to get finances or credit to start their enterprise. So where does the status of women lie in the context of Indian economy or in the economies, less developed economies like ours? Is social stigma, no financial access, and hence we have women who have got a whole bunch of unfulfilled ambitions, while limiting their opportunity to becoming self-reliant by gaining agency or mobility in the social sphere. So if we keep on thinking on this, that how can women be helped out of this situation, self-help groups or SHGs can act as a bridge between these women entrepreneurs who have the will to begin an enterprise but do not have the resources to fulfill their dreams, and they can provide them with the finances that are needed to do so. We now look at how the SHGs have evolved over time. The SHGs and the microcredit organizations have a long history. In Vietnam, tontines or Huy, with 10 to 15 members involved in financial activities in cash or kind, have been in existence for quite a long time, in fact for quite some generations. In Indonesia, credit unions, fishermen groups, village-based banks like institutions, irrigation groups, etc. have been in existence since long. In Bangladesh, the success story of the Grameen Bank is well known. Other countries like Thailand, Nepal, Sri Lanka, India, they have also initiated the self-help groups in uplifting the socio-economic conditions of the poor, particularly the women. In India, the self-help groups were promoted by the NGOs, the banks, and the cooperatives. We have the NABARD, the National Agricultural Bank for Reconstruction and Development. They launched a pilot project for linking the SHGs in February 1992. The NABARD gives 100% refinance to the banks on their lending whenever the banks lend through the SHGs. So, in short, we can say that the SHGs are essentially involuntary organization. They are informal in nature, of people who assemble together to attain a collective goal. People who are homogeneous with respect to social background, heritage, caste, or traditional occupation come together for a common cause to raise and manage their collective savings for the benefit of all the group members. And usually the focus is on poor and the focus is on women. The women who forms the SHGs, they regularly contributes money to this group. The SHGs can be formed for any common cause or developmental activity. Normally it is found that initially, though the groups are formed for a specific activity, gradually they diversify and take up more than one development activity in any area. SHGs practicing saving and credit along with other activities have been more successful and sustainable generally. So what are the various types of possible groups that are possible under the SHGs? They are obviously, the first one is a savings and the credit group. Then we have the social forestry groups. We have water users group in places where there is scarcity of water. We have watershed development groups. And of course, we have the farmers' interest groups. So emerging as an important microfinance system, the SHGs work as platforms that promote solidarity among women, bring them together on issues of health, nutrition, gender parity, and social justice. And they have already made a significant contribution in developing entrepreneurship aptitudes amongst rural women by enhancing their skills and giving them a chance to engage in various entrepreneurial activities. So we find that the SHGs provide women entrepreneurs with micro loans to sustain their business, while creating an environment for them to develop greater agency and also to develop their decision-making skills. In India, if we look at India, the SHG movement started back in the 1980s when several non-governmental organizations mobilized and organized poor communities in rural areas and offered them a formal channel for social and financial support. This program gained momentum with NABARD, linking a small number of these groups with the banks. This linkage program was called the Self-Help Group Bank Linkage Program, and this revolutionary initiative connected group members, many of whom had never seen or never experienced a bank account before, to formal financial services in a sustainable and scalable manner. Now, we turn to the fact that how can SHGs be a tool for empowerment? Forming and nurturing small, homogeneous and participatory self-help groups of the poor have emerged as a potent tool for human development. This process enables the poor, especially the women, to collectively identify and analyze the problems that they face in the perspective of their economic and social environment. It helps them to pool their meager resources, human and financial, and prioritize their use for solving their own problems. The emphasis on regular thrift collection and its use to solve immediate problems of consumption and production not only helps to meet their most urgent skills, but also trains them to handle large financial resources more skillfully, prudently, and with a more pounding impact. So, SHGs should be encouraged to become a forum for many other such social sector interventions. The basic principles of SHG functioning, they are as follows. The members of the groups should be residents of the same area and they must have an affinity. Homogeneity of relationship could be in terms of caste, occupation, gender, or economic status. Secondly, savings first and credit thereafter. Thirdly, the SHGs should hold regular meetings. Fourthly, SHGs should maintain a record of their financial and any other transactions. Fifthly, they should have norms regarding memberships, meetings, etc. Sixthly, group leaders should be elected by members and that should also be rotated periodically. Seventhly, transparency in operations of the group and participatory decision making is extremely important here. Eighthly, rates of interest on loans should be decided by the group. And lastly, group liability and peer pressure should act as a substitute for traditional collateral. We have a very interesting case of Maharashtra in this context of SHGs. In Maharashtra, specifically the concept of SHGs goes back to 1947, when a few women of the Amravati district established SHG with just 25 paisa. Today, apart from becoming a conduit for credit in the state, SHGs also deliver services ranging from entrepreneurial training, livelihood promotion, and community development for women entrepreneurs. SHGs such as Mahila Arthik Vikas Mahila Mandal, Umed Abhiyan under the Maharashtra's Department of Rural Development's State Rural Development Mission, and government schemes such as Tejaswini, etc., have proven beneficial in the development of women entrepreneurship for the cause of women's empowerment. A study was conducted by Ashwini Deshpande and Shantanu Khanna in 2020. They reported that the SHGs in Maharashtra had a strong impact on a range of indicators related to women empowerment in the state, including political participation, knowledge of administration, financial literacy, mobility, and decision making. So we see that SHGs can also empower women. They have a huge role in women empowerment. In Maharashtra alone, 5,27,000 SHGs have had a role to play in accounting for over 50% of all women-led small-scale industrial units in India, which shows that SHGs can go a long way in the holistic development, not only about women empowerment, but also about women entrepreneurship, which can further lead to women empowerment. So we can say that the self-help groups are relevant even today because their provision of microloans help overcome the regional imbalances as well as the information asymmetrics. There was a multifaceted study which was carried out by the IFMR Kriya Business School, which was conducted by the Ministry of Rural Development. They evaluated the impact of the SHGs which have had on livelihoods and also on consumption, expenditure and saving pattern in households where the women were part of it. The study found that women aided by SHGs were 10% more likely to save on a regular basis, resulting in economic empowerment while working towards a better future for the next generation. So we can conclude this module by saying that the revolutionary momentum that SHGs have created has given women a sense of self-assurance in their journey to become Atmanirbhar or self-reliant. Observing the crucial role they play, corporations and foundations globally have designed SHG-led programs to help women achieve economic empowerment. Initiatives such as Udyam's 3 campaign by Edelgi Foundation, for example, has focused on women entrepreneurs in Maharashtra, Rajasthan, among other states, by leveraging SHGs such as Mavin and other relevant stakeholders. Facebook's Pragati and Google's Women Will, among others, have also moved the needle in fostering a level playing field for women entrepreneurs. So women with mortgage-free microloans at the core of the trust that SHGs build with their beneficiaries, they are one of India's most important tools for women to achieve socio-economic self-reliance, Atmanirbharta, and women empowerment.